Hey, Jacob. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for the opportunity to share our story.
So I live in Seattle, in South Lake Union. So Allen Institute is if you are into startups and investing and venture, that Allen Institute has been there for a while. Before all the buzz of generative AI and ChatGPT was, it's now capturing people's attention. But the AI trend and incubating startups in AI has been going on at Allen Institute for a while. So it's pretty exciting to talk to you because of the timing we are in. But before getting into all that stuff, I just want to start with, what is your early background and education, and how did you first get into tech?
I've been a builder most of my entire life. I'm very fortunate to have been able to partner with a number of incredible technologists and folks in the industry. I'm typically the, sales, marketing, hustling, early stage traction type person on the team. And I've just, again, been very fortunate to partner with just brilliant technical minds. I did not go to school for engineering. I went to school for media and communication, and my own resume and my own journey has been, a little bit non-traditional in that, I played music for a long time and, went through a period of social entrepreneurship. But I think the thread that pulls it all together is that I've always just been a creator, been a builder. And that type of energy, that type of personality works really well in a startup environment. So that was my path, was through just building and creating and eventually navigating that energy and that focus to doing that in the spirit of entrepreneurship, which really turned out to be a tremendous opportunity and a really good fit for my brain and my personality type.
So, you said you started for media and communications, and then I was going through your resume, and looks like you partly also worked for Democratic Party. That felt like an interesting pivot.
Well, I think, a startup, especially at the pre-seed stage, which is where we spend so much of our time, is still very much just an idea with some very passionate people. And that is also very true in politics. A lot of the times when a candidate is just getting started, or a social movement, or something, it's really just a set of ideals and some early people willing to work very long hours to activate a community, or try and solve some social injustice, or try and get somebody elected. So I think there are a lot of parallels between the world of politics and the world of entrepreneurship. Again, you're selling the ideals of an individual, or of a organization, or of a movement, and not of necessarily a product, but the activities and the energy and the execution is in the same ballpark, at least. Obviously not exactly the same thing, but it's similar movements and similar activities involved.
I think when you're young, you're full of energy and you want to change things, fight the system, or do something like that. But you then quickly pivoted into tech. So what was it like with that experience? Was the idealism gone, or did something on that front change, or
well,
it's just a natural?
I would argue that Google, through Google Maps, access to information, the ability to create communication channels like Gmail, Google has arguably done more good for the world than a lot of government programs, right? And so I think, to me, as I learned more about myself as a human being, and as I matured and saw the world for what it really was, I think those same ideals of wanting to make the world better, wanting to create opportunity for people, in a lot of ways, the efficiency of an enterprise, a for-profit enterprise who moves lightning fast to make things happen, can arguably have a lot more impact on the world than a lot of government programs. And so, my goal was to have an impact. And you're right, when you're young and full of ideals and wanting to change the world and all those things, politics can be an inspiring place to start. But I think entrepreneurship is just generally more efficient at being able to create change in a way that's very positive for society. And that's what ultimately pulled me into tech. I don't think I changed that much as a human. I think I just found a better set of tools to achieve the impact. And those tools are, a lot more rampant in the world of entrepreneurship than they are in the world of government, unfortunately.
So you then started Spark.com?
Yeah. Yeah. So Sparked was a product that came out of social entrepreneurship and politics. The iPhone had just came out, and we were trying to figure out how to do a better job of activating and organizing thousands of volunteers on campaigns and for social initiatives. And suddenly overnight, you've got a device that has, wireless data, cellular data in your pocket, that has GPS, that has a camera, that has all these incredible features and functionality. And so we built Sparked initially as a platform to allow nonprofits or political parties or whatnot to engage tens of thousands of their supporters in actions that were more than just sign a petition, but actions where they would take a photo or use a GPS or do these things. Door knocking in politics used to be done using clipboards and pieces of paper, and obviously it's a lot more efficient when you can do that and track on a GPS, hundreds of volunteers in a field effort, right? So that was the genesis for that idea, and then we evolved that quite a bit to, a distributed crowdsourcing platform on mobile phones. And, that sounds dated. I suppose I'm starting to get older in life. So, I'm rolling my eyes at how old that sounds, just repeating that out loud. But, Wikipedia was still pretty early. There was a lot of this idea of crowdsourcing was becoming a thing. And at the time, it was a very novel idea to be able to do that in a distributed way across hundreds of thousands of cell phones. That company evolved to be able to engage these people who were passionate about a particular brand. And then eventually the company was sold. And then I was an entrepreneur a few other times before I really found my calling on the other side of the table in terms of helping entrepreneurs to, frankly, not make a lot of the mistakes that I made as a first-time and a second-time entrepreneur. I really found the world of venture capital and incubation to be the absolute perfect fit for who I was as a human being. And I just feel really, really lucky that I've had the opportunity to work in this industry for a number of years at this point.
So
it's an incredible opportunity.
You then went on to work at Lighter Capital, which is a revenue-based financing product, which sounds a lot similar to what I think Pipe was doing, right?
Not sure. Lighter was a wonderful organization in that they fill a gap in the marketplace between the handful of organizations or startups in any one particular market that are capable of raising venture capital, and the long tail of folks that are building great products in that space. So, there are hundreds of folks in the cloud hosting space outside of Dropbox and Box.net and so on and so forth. But unless you're one of the top, let's say 10 startups or companies in a particular field, you're unlikely to be able to raise venture capital. Now, those are great businesses who are making quite a bit of money in a lot of cases, and are founders who have, just as many dreams as the rest of us do. But if they're not eligible for venture capital because they're not necessarily a market leader in the space, how do you grow your business? Before Lighter Capital, it was bank loans with personal guarantees, which meant financial ruin for some people. Lighter's product was very innovative in that instead of taking somebody's FICO score, which is not actually a determinant as to whether or not a business is healthy or not, but instead they took the churn rate in a SaaS product's record book, and they underwrote effectively a loan against the churn rate, the historical churn rate in the business, which is a much better predictor of whether a SaaS product is going to grow or not, is going to be able to pay back a loan or not, and really introduced a new a new funding instrument for a large group of entrepreneurs that were not being served by the current opportunities in the market. So Lighter is a very cool product. It's not for everybody, but then again, neither is venture capital or any other instrument. And Lighter is a net positive addition to the world, and then it gives entrepreneurs another opportunity, another source of ways to grow their business without having to sign a personal guarantee or take additional dilution, which is quite cool.
It reminded me of the company Pipe. I don't know if you've heard. It's similarly. I mean, I think in 2019 it was a very hot startup, which introduced revenue-based financing product for startups, which was a little bit precarious because at different stages the revenue predictability is different, and if your risk is completely focused on super early stage, that could mean that the model might not actually work out. So I was referring to that scenario. But then at some point, you started working on Allen Institute. How did that came about?
Well,
or actually creating, right? You're one of the founding members, if I understand correctly.
The word founder is a funny word. It is often given a tremendous amount of respect, and in a lot of cases that's deserved. In our case, I was the first person to walk through the door, but I would be nothing without the rest of our team here. And this place exists because of the hard work of a number of people, and I am but one spoke in a wheel of folks, not least of whom are the dozens and dozens of entrepreneurs who have partnered with us and built very cool companies that are doing very well in a lot of cases. And those are the real heroes of our story. I might have been the first through the door to turn the light switch on and screw in the desks and mount the monitors to the tables and do some of the early work. But it is the folks, particularly our entrepreneurs, who do the hard work day in, day out, that make this collective community that as cool as it has grown to be. The incubator started really as it was part of the plan from day one for the Allen Institute for AI. Paul Allen and Oren Etzioni co-founded this place in 2014, and having a commercialization arm was always part of the plan. Paul Allen, obviously very entrepreneurial. He co-founded a little company called Microsoft that you might have heard of, but also was heavily involved in investing in startups for decades after that. Was incredibly entrepreneurial. And Oren Etzioni was the founding CEO and co-founder of the Allen Institute for AI, or AI2 as we call it for short. Oren, in his own life, had built and successfully sold 5 companies on his own, including Faircast to Bing and a number of other companies over the years. And so both Paul and Oren were incredibly entrepreneurial people, in addition to having a tremendous respect for the field of AI and a desire to want to push the bleeding edge of what's possible. And so, while the Institute was created in 2014, there were some early commercialization efforts. So Oren led the efforts to explore the creation of Kit.ai and Xnor.ai, which were some of the early successes to come out of here. And then at a certain point, Paul and Oren decided that they wanted to double down on creating an incubator, a commercialization arm of the Research Institute. And in the timing of the century, I happened to have coffee with Oren at the right week and had expressed a desire to want to do that. And Oren and Paul were gracious enough to give me a chance. But like I said, I might have been the first person through the door, but we would be nothing without the rest of our team here. And again, nothing without the entrepreneurs that have come through the door after that. This place is a very, very cool place. This incubator in particular is one of the most exciting things that I've ever been a part of. And all of that is made possible by the folks that are building these companies.
So talk to me a little bit about the decoupling from the Research Institute and the incubator. Like, are you taking the latest research and productizing in the incubator, or you're taking pitches from outside founders who are, who worked at Facebook or some other places, and they want to do some AI company and are pitching you. What is the process like?
We are a little bit of a mix of a few different things. At the end of the day, what we do in the incubator is we co-found companies with entrepreneurs. We are a partner with entrepreneurs. We happen to be a partner that has access to 200 PhDs and researchers and engineers and professors and support staff through our relationship with the Allen Institute for AI. The incubator also has a number of people on the core team here who have many years of experience of building companies. And when we partner with an entrepreneur, we are a minority co-founder in their company. Y Combinator and Techstars take 7 to 9% common stock when they get involved. We take 9% common stock when we get involved. Y Combinator and Techstars will have hundreds of startups over the course of a year that go through their various programs around the country or in Silicon Valley. We'll work with a couple dozen entrepreneurs at most over the arc of a year, which turns out to be roughly 5 or 6 companies a year that will end up getting incorporated and getting funded through the incubator. And we're rolling up our sleeves and doing a lot of hard work to create those companies. We have a long list of ways that we support our various partners on our website. So ai2incubator.com/howwehelp. You can read about all the different ways that we get involved. But basically, to sum up the key points, is our job as a co-founder is to help you build the best team possible. We have thousands of people per year that come through the incubator as introductions or referrals or everything else. And 100% of the teams that we've built over the years have met a co-founder or several technical first hires through us. So team building is a really important thing that we do. We then work really hard to help you create the best product possible. And that might include acceleration of the technical stack or advice on applied AI or access to, various learnings and things that we've, got the ability to do around foundation models or large language models or any other, keywords you want to use. But this is an incredible place where you can find a tremendous amount of technical expertise as well as startup business expertise. And then we help you raise millions of dollars in seed funding, in addition to the ability to write up to $500,000 pre-seed check, do the entire pre-seed check round in-house ourselves. So, we build teams, we build product, and we help those teams raise enough capital to take it to the next level. That's what we do. It's one of the only VC funds or incubators or venture studios or whatever you want to call it. Like, there's a lot of different words out there for similar types of work that folks like us do. To our knowledge, we're one of the only places in the world that has an ecosystem of hundreds of AI PhDs and researchers and engineers and professors and support staff. Like, that's a really unique thing that we bring to the table. And at a time when generative AI is, the topic du jour that everybody's talking about. In a lot of ways, we suddenly look like geniuses, but we've been doing this for years. And we're very lucky that the moment is here to help educate the world about all the things that we've been working on for, more than half a decade. So, it's an exciting time. But, truly, we take it very seriously to be and to use the word co-founder. Entrepreneurs here, we fall in love with these teams. We pour our heart and souls into getting these teams off the ground. We are, crying shoulders to cry on and drinking buddies and all the things involved with the hardship of entrepreneurship, because it's hard. It's hard to get a business off the ground. And we've been there many, many times. And to date, the incubator has now had, over 20 companies that have come through, over 70 AI founders that have come through here. Those folks have now raised over $150 million. Those companies are worth 660 million in hard valuation if you count term sheets and so on. We're closing in on $1 billion of portfolio valuation, which, half of which was added in the last 2 years. So we're really excited about the momentum and the energy. And again, it's a really unique, one-of-a-kind place to build an AI first startup with a group of people who really care. We work really hard. We love what we do, and we care a lot about the products that we create, and we happen to have just a tremendous amount of AI expertise, and both from an applied AI standpoint and also about how do you build a business model around AI, and that's really unique.
We can't not talk about generative AI when I have you on the podcast. In terms of where we are, 5 years back, 6 years back, it's all about integrating ML in recommendation systems, or suggesting what's best for you, what is the next best song to listen to. Like Spotify was integrating a machine learning into their playlists, right? We saw Netflix recommendation system as being hailed as one of the best recommendation systems. I remember, like, when I first joined Microsoft, Netflix was announcing a bounty to improve their machine learning models efficiency from 95% to 98%, something like that. So we saw that era of machine learning, and it seems like we are in a new era of machine learning. Can you define to the audience at least how you guys think about where we are in terms of this journey?
We are in a very exciting time. Obviously, the ChatGPT has captured the world's imagination. It's captured the imagination of practically every VC fund on the planet. And there are countless stories of ways that these types of technologies are going to change the world, and relentless number of startups that are coming out every week trying to take advantage of this and activate the next big thing. In times of just tremendous innovation and opportunity like this, naturally you'll have a lot of stuff that is fluff, and a lot of stuff that you might file under what you would call a hype cycle. And naturally you're going to have a lot of stuff that really is changing the paradigm, changing the way that things are done in a variety of different industries. I think it's a time of trying to maintain some sense of humility to make sure that you're actually solving customers' problems and not just leaning into the hype cycle for the hype cycle's sake, or leaning into the technology for the technology's sake. Every couple of months or so, there's an exciting paper that comes out in AI, and we often say, oh my gosh, this is going to change everything here in the walls of AI2. And then somebody has a sage and wise voice in the back of the room and says, okay, but how are people actually going to use this? How is this actually going to change a product or an industry, or make somebody's life better, either an enterprise, customer, or consumer? And I think that's where we're still seeing a little bit of a gap. Some of these tools are very cool and have a tremendous amount of promise, but you're not quite going to use ChatGPT to make a recommendation to a Fortune 500 CEO on what the next business move should be, right? We're not quite there yet, right? And so I think we are at a very exciting time, but there's still a lot of work to do to close that last gap and really make sure these things are as accurate as they can be, are as impactful as they can be, and are actually, products that are needed by folks, and to not lose sight of the fact that AI is still not something that people buy. They buy solutions to their problems. Nobody has said, hey, honey, go to the store on your way home and pick up some bananas, some milk, and some AI. People still don't say that. They want their problem solved. And I think our job as innovators is to, again, maintain some sense of humility and make sure that as we are getting excited about these technologies, they seem to be on the precipice of truly breakthroughs, and in a lot of cases have already proven themselves to be, but just don't lose sight of the fact that that is still a long ways away from a product that is solving a very specific problem for a very specific customer persona, and to not get overly caught up in the hype gap between those two things.
So when you think about a company like OpenAI, I mean, everyone knows ChatGPT, but what essentially they're doing is creating that foundational model for large, what we're calling as LLMs, right? What do you think their business model is going to be? Because this is one of the things that we are seeing with AI companies is like everyone will use an OpenAI API and call it as .ai in their domain name and say we're an AI company, right? So I guess it's a two-part question. How do you see a company like OpenAI or Stability AI and how their business model can be? And what do you think can be the moat of companies who are building on top of these large language models?
I think literally my feed is 400 articles long every day about, what's OpenAI going to do next. And, here's what I'll say. I think, in general, we are very grateful for the energy and attention over the last several months around OpenAI. I think they've done a tremendous job of capturing people's imaginations of what's possible with AI, and billions of dollars of earned media, free marketing for innovators like me. My parents suddenly know what AI is because they've learned about what's possible, and they now understand the basic things that we've been trying to do for years. And so we're very grateful to all of that energy and awareness that's gone into the market, because it makes the lives of our innovators that much easier. And also it's just a very exciting time where, the tools that OpenAI is putting out there and the long list of other folks that are out there are creating the ability for AI tools to get into market with much less friction, much less pre-roll work, pre-development work, to just get something out to the point at which it can be proved as a viable product. And so it is a huge benefit to AI innovators all over the world to have these tools to be able to test with and to be able to improve upon. There's still work that will need to be done to specialize and personalize and apply the nuances of each industry and each customer persona to those products. It's not enough just to put a skin on top of GPT and call yourself, an innovative new company. You've got to figure out how you are going to, specialize that for a particular group of users, and how you are going to include the unique things that are exist in each individual industry and account for those. But I think it's a very, very exciting time. And I think it's going to be the innovators that can take it that one step further and make sure that they're specializing their products for various industries and not just creating a generic skin on top of GPT. Those are the ones that are going to be relevant in 2 years and are going to have some defensibility and longevity to those businesses.
And to me, it always looked like the incumbents have much more advantage in AI in general, like the big tech companies, Google, Microsoft, because of the data and the compute and the research that has been going through in all the companies, including Facebook. So I always thought and still think, for a large extent, I think the incumbents will compound on that advantage. What do you think about that?
Well, in the early 2000s, startups would pitch investors to raise money, and their infrastructure was a key factor in their pitch deck. We've got 99% uptime. We've got a whole team here that can host our website and make sure that it doesn't go down. And then AWS came along and suddenly allowed 2 people in the proverbial garage to compete with Netflix for the same quality of hosting worldwide. It was an incredible gift to the community in a lot of ways, because you didn't need $4 million to have the world's best hosting system and IT experts to make sure that those servers never went down. You just spun up some machines on AWS and suddenly you're in business. That was groundbreaking for folks. And I see a similar AWS type moment happening in the world today, where the historical story has been that the companies with the most data are going to win the AI game. And I think there's still going to be many scenarios where that will be true. They will have a competitive advantage. The more data you have, the better. But tools like OpenAI and again, the long lists of other folks that are offering everything from large language models to you name it, that have been pre-trained and have the ability for two people in a proverbial garage to spin up without necessarily having the data access that a Google or a Microsoft or an Amazon had previously enjoyed that exclusive access to. That is an AWS moment that we are seeing. And that is a groundbreaking moment where, that idea of having the most data will win isn't necessarily the case anymore. I mean, it's still relevant and it still matters, but there are definitely holes in that wall that startups can find their way through. And that is, entirely made possible by these new models that are being introduced into the marketplace. And again, if you look at historically what that has done for innovation, using AWS as a metaphor or an example, I think we're in another cycle of that, and that will play out almost the same way, is my perspective.
The interesting thing about this moment, and right now, because of ChatGPT integration with Bing, it almost seems, or like at least the popular culture perspective is that Google is behind, all right, which seems a little bit hilarious to me, because if you've used a Google app or phone, that especially people in tech, that AI is being rolled out continuously. It's not telling you that it's AI, right? When you're typing Gmail and it's recommending you text of what to type next, it's AI, right? If you're taking a picture using Google Pixel, it's in computational photography, they're using AI, right? So it's a little bit, I mean, the hype is good, but at the same time, I think some of the details get blurred in the moment of hype, for sure, as you mentioned. But do you think in general, large language models can disrupt search? I mean,
I think
ignoring
there,
this
yeah,
conflict of, what's happening in the short term.
any true-blooded entrepreneur knows that not all customer segments are created equal. You can't sell a product in a repeatable, scalable way to every person on the planet. People are nuanced, and you have to divide your market into customer segments that have unique needs, and then develop products and marketing campaigns that speak to each of those audiences appropriately. In the same vein, not all searches are created equal. And I think people have these grand statements that GPT is going to kill Google and suddenly search is no longer relevant. And I think that to some extent, there are some searches where that's true, right? How old is Barack Obama? Well, that's an easy one that will now be answered by Siri or Alexa or GPT inside of Bing, or, frankly, within Google. Even Google has rearranged their search end result pages to surface that logical information very easily for more basic searches. Do I think there's still a very, very long tail, long list of types of searches that will not be served by GPT? Absolutely. And so, yes, I think that there will be some of a dent in Google's market share from GPT coming out, and probably that will grow over time. But I think this idea that suddenly Google's toast and GPT is going to take over the world that's a hype cycle statement that is not rooted in the practicalities of how people actually use products and how those products actually solve problems for people. I think that Google, for the first time in a while, has some real competition. And I think that's good, because competition, breeds competition, it breeds energy and excitement, and it creates innovation, and it's an exciting time. But I think anybody that's suddenly counting Google out and seeing it as a suddenly like a failed company is missing a company that has innovated their pants off. Anybody that's counting Google out right now is not giving credit to a company that has innovated on a wide variety of products that have changed our lives over the years. And I think it's great that Google has some competition, but I think they're going to show up with some pretty good products over the coming years. And I'm excited to see the entire industry get better.
Slightly shifting gears, how much do you guys think about AI becomes sentient, or do you guys consider AI becoming intelligent like a human, or like a dog or a cat, or like in a human intelligence sense? Like, do you see even now, I know like a regular user thinks that it is intelligent, but what I think is it's not intelligent like a human is. It's a different type of intelligence, because we really don't know how to replicate human intelligence, because we firstly don't understand human intelligence in the first place. So we don't know how to replicate it. I'm curious, what are the debates that you guys have in terms of AI becomes sentient, and what do you think about AI's intelligence versus human intelligence?
A lot of the times when people bring up questions like that, it's often quickly followed by, well, what's going to get replaced by AI? When are humans going to become irrelevant? And I think just pulling it back to the work that we do at the incubator, first of all, I think it's going to be many, 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 many years before AGI or any of these types of things. I mean, at the end of the day, AI is just software that learns and gets smarter as it learns. It's not sentient being, and it's going to be a long time before that's possible. Anybody that works in the field of AI will certainly tell you that AI is pretty good, but it's also still, it still has a long way to go. And it is still not nearly the killer robots that everybody paints it out to be in the press. What I will say, though, is that in the field of innovation, people often worry that AI and automation are going to replace jobs, and there are definitely scenarios where that's true. But we work within the framework of an and, not an or. What I mean by that is, it is not the doctor or the AI. It is the doctor and the AI that ends up being a way better outcome for the patient. For example, there's a lot of hype over the years about AI replacing radiologists, in that computer vision can more quickly and articulately identify a cancerous cell in an X-ray or a mammogram or something else than a doctor can. And while that may be true, the AI is never going to sit a family down and have to explain that you now have breast cancer. You need a human being to do that, and you need a human being to put together a care plan. The AI can't do that. It doesn't have the emotion or empathy or necessarily understanding of all the nuances involved. So a lot like the way spell check helps make sure that you don't make mistakes in your writing and come off as uneducated or any of the other emotions that we use spell check to protect against, because we don't want to look silly in front of our coworkers or our bosses or whatever it is. I think AI can do the same in a lot of ways in medicine, to help doctors be better at what they do. But it's it's the AI and the doctor, not AI or the doctor. And so that framework of an and versus an or is very much where we operate in the incubator. We're constantly trying to figure out how to use AI to augment and supercharge and give humans superpowers to make them better and more efficient at what they do and more effective at what they do. But we're certainly not actively building here, at least in the incubator, towards some kind of general intelligent being that is suddenly going to be released into the world. I mean, at the end of the day, the news media has a business model, and it's called eyeballs, and they put out these stories and they want eyeballs and clicks on those stories to sell ads. I mean, let's not forget that all of the stuff that we read online has a business model, and AI gets 12% smarter at helping a human accomplish a task is a lot less interesting than AI killer robots are going to steal your jobs, right? And so let's not forget that when we read this stuff online, we are feeding the business model of the news media that wants you to click and wants your eyeballs to look at their ads. And so a lot of the sensationalism that exists is fueled, first of all, by journalists that maybe don't fully understand how AI works, but also are happy to lean into a sensationalist angle because it's a better job of getting eyeballs to an article, and maybe not necessarily rooted in the realities of where the technologies are and also what the innovators are trying to do with these technologies.
Yeah, I think the gap between the tech coverage, right? If you're going into AI, less and less people understand it. And that percentage has been dropping as technology progresses, right? So the coverage is only going to get worse if a new level of technology is coming. I think that sort of bandwidth is always increasing between the actual, truth versus what you can make a comment on, because it's hard for people to suddenly read some articles and get intelligent about AI. And to your fact of like using an and versus or is pretty interesting way to put it. And I think the and is basically increasing our leverage, because now a radiologist or who are in whichever situation you take, you can, whatever you are accomplishing in 30 minutes, now you can accomplishing in 1 minute, because AI might have done all the 99% of the work. And all you have to do is spend 30 minutes to make sure you're not missing the 1% edge case that AI might miss, because at the end of the day, we cannot get 100% accuracy in all these models, right? And the same thing with email example. If you're using email regularly, your productivity increased in how many emails you can send out and read, probably by 80-50%, depending on, what you're using, but you didn't eliminate emails, right? It's not like my AI will be talking to your AI and they're talking between each other and we don't know what's happening.
And if you look at history, automation is scary, but in almost every scenario has resulted in a higher quality of life for everybody, the society as a whole, right? When the washing machine was introduced, we forget that we used to wash clothes with, a board that had some raised bumps on it to grind the dirt out of it. And it would be hours of work for somebody to scrub their clothes clean. And the washing machine made that a lot easier, right? Email replaced letters, which we used to have to write by hand and then hand to the post office, and it would take 3 or 4 days to mail. And the telegraph replaced, people riding on horseback or mail bags on a train, which took 5 days to get across the United States. I mean, innovation is a scary thing, and it can be a sensationalist thing. But in almost all cases, when these types of tools to make humans more efficient and more effective and more productive have come out, it has resulted in a much higher quality of life for everybody. And AI is enabling that for the next wave of a lot of products, not every industry, but a lot of these tasks that we do on a day-to-day basis, are just laborious tasks, and we've accepted in a lot of ways that, well, that's just how it is. In the same way that people couldn't necessarily imagine what a washing machine could do, and like, of course, you needed to just grind your clothes against the washing board and then rinse it off in the river. But that's the efficiencies that are gained by those have changed the lives of countless millions of people, and that's also what's going to happen when these next wave of enablements come out through AI.
Yeah, I think we've had that worry with pretty much every step change that we have seen in technology. We're almost at the end of our conversation. I want to end the conversation with one last question. Sure, there is a lot of hype right now, but looking back maybe in 3-4 years, what are some of the products that you're excited to see and that might, will come out of this hype or otherwise?
I would encourage you to visit AI2Incubator.com and check out the new companies that we're building as they are ready to announce what they do.
That's a good one.
There's a wide variety of industries that are going to be disrupted by AI, but not in the spirit of job loss or whatnot. It's tools that are going to be rolled out for these industries where the people that work in them are going to be way more efficient in what they do.
Thanks, Jacob. Thanks for the spirited conversation, and love your takes and straightforwardness.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity to tell our story. We are very grateful to be able to do what we do. And, if you're thinking about starting any kind of company, and if that company has AI in it in any way, shape, or form, we would absolutely love the opportunity to talk to you and see if we can be supportive.
Thank you.